Hey everybody, this is going to be a quick how-to video on how to install front drums on a split bus. We're going to be putting on these newly painted drums on a bus, so let's do it.
Hey everybody, welcome to VW Life. Gary and Matt Jackson here. So we're working on Johnson today, and if those of you who are familiar with Johnson, it's a 64 single cab that it's been sitting here for about 10 years. So just recently I had these drums turned, so they're nice and true, you can see that. And then I blasted them and painted them with some DE 1635, that ceramic paint. Really holds up well. We've kind of noticed that. So what I want to do first of all is I want to make sure that I get the cavity really good and clean in here before we start greasing, because you know, you don't want any kind of grit or any kind of grime in there. So we're going to clean this out really good first. First things we'll use is a little bit of just a simple brake cleaner to kind of moisten everything out, break everything out, and then you kind of get the flow out of there really good. Lots of talk on over the years on what exactly as far as packing the bearings on a split bus front. Do you pack it all the way full? Do you do only half? You know, smear a little around. There's all kinds of different theories. I don't think there's one wrong, one right. It's whatever floats your boat. I like to put a little bit more than probably most people put in there, but I think you know, a little more grease is, you're not going to hurt anything, that's for sure. But right now we just want to make sure we get it really clean. That's the key on this.
All right, step 2 is getting your inner bearing. The inner bearing is the larger of the two. So there's the inner, and here's the outer. So we're just going to make sure it's all clean. And then it's going to go in here. We're not replacing. You could punch out this. This is the race. We're not punching that out. We're reusing the one that's there. It seems okay. And we're going to stick the inner bearing in there with a whole bunch of grease. So we're going to pack the bearing with grease.
That's the plan, Stan. So there's no other really simple way to do this. I do remember a long time ago selling a thing called a bearing packer. And it was like 2 cups, and you squish bearing grease in there, and it was like a grease gun. It was really fancy, but I don't know. I think kind of getting grease in your fingers like this, clean grease, kind of cool. Feels good. And you can really work it into the roller bearings in there too, so that's always a good thing. There's probably all kinds of fancy ways to do this. I've seen some people just dunk them into the box of grease there. I don't know. So now we're just going to smear some in there like we were talking about earlier. I mean, I've seen people on the Samba talk about let's filling it up, and some people just smear in there just a little bit. I'm kind of half and half kind of guy. I like a little bit in there. I mean, it's really not going to get to the it's not going to get to the bearing because of where the race is and everything anyhow in the grand scheme of things. But, you know, grease is cheap, and, you know, you put it in there, and it might keep some moisture out too, so I always like doing that. More the merrier. That's what I always say. Not for the timid.
All right, so the next step is packing the seal.
Yeah, there's a little extra grease in there. Not going to hurt anything. So we're going to put some more grease in here. And just, you're going to make, see that little, it's like a little spring ring in there. That kind of helps keep the seal on the spindle. You always want to make sure that that doesn't slide off. And so you got to be really careful of that. It's kind of buried down in the grease, hard to see. That it's one of those little things you want to make sure it's still there. So you put it in there, and there's several different ways you can put this in. I've got this little seal tap thing, makes it a little easier than other ways, but anything can do. Old seal actually works really good. You just put it right in just like you're doing the other one. So we're going to kind of tap this in. And of course, always make sure that the lip goes to the oil kind of thing. So always remember that. So that's why you don't want. I've seen these put in backwards before. So you always remember the lip to the seal to the oil.
Yeah, flat part on the top.
Yeah.
If you don't have like. I'm just trying to make sure it's
nice and
flush.
Yeah, it looks pretty good in there.
Now I don't have one of these presses, but I've just used a mallet. And if you're just really careful and you kind of go around, and you can just kind of tap one in there with a mallet or a bulking hand. I mean a dead blow.
Yeah, pretty much. Nothing too fancy on that.
Yeah, don't get too worried about it. You can get it in there, and the grease helps it go down.
All right, so that's that. Let's go to our outer bearing, which is, actually you can tell it's a little smaller. And it's the same process as the other one. We're just going to pack it full of good old wheel bearing grease. All right.
So the next step involves these 4 pieces. You've got 2 nuts. These are 27 millimeter on a split bus. And then you've got this washer that goes between this and that. And you have the little lock washer. All right, so let's go stick it on Johnson.
Yeah.
Let's grab our 27.
Always a good idea to put some grease on this, just to make sure you get full coverage on it. I mean, because it's going to be sitting in there. So, again, the back part's what the seal rubs on. But if you put some grease on this will keep it from getting. It'll have grease around it, but I always like just putting it on there. It helps everything seal up good. A little layer. Again, I don't think there's such a deal as too much grease. Oh, there you go.
All right, so the first part that goes on is your outer bearing.
Yeah.
And then there's the keyed washer. It's got a little key that fits in the groove of these splines.
Yeah, on your spindle you'll see that little notch there, and it fits in the notch here on this, just like that. Got some good little grease pokes out. That's a good sign. I'm just going to cram a little more in there because, again, I don't think there's such a thing as too much in this case. Then we're going to put on our first of our spindle nuts.
On the passenger side, these tighten on the regular way, clockwise.
Righty-tighty.
On the driver's side, it's backwards, so it's kind of a little confusing because you turn it the wrong way to tighten it.
But that keeps you from losing a wheel down the road.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, all kinds of different ways you hear about this on how to snug these up.
Now let's tell them about this special 27-inch.
So yeah, you can see this is a 27 millimeter, but see how thin it is? Because you're going to have to get in here to snug this up when you put your other nut on there too. So first thing, we're just going to go over here. I always think it's just like the first time I feel resistance, okay, I line it up with one of the lug bolt holes, and then I just go to the next one, okay? And then I'm going to spin it a couple times to kind of everything seat, okay? And then I'm going to back it back off again. I just want everything kind of getting good and seated in there. Spin it around some more. And again, I'll go to right where I feel just a little bit of snugness. And then I line it up on my lug bolt hole there, and then I'll go about halfway down on that. You don't want to get it too snug. That's for sure. All right, next up, you can see that we've got that in place. That's feeling pretty good. Here's the lock washer. It's got a little clip on there too, a little nodule that goes in that little spot where the other washer went in, and it slips in behind that first nut, spindle nut, and then now you put your second spindle nut in place. And my hands are really greasy. A little bit of a spot right there I can feel. There we go. So this, we're going to come all the way here. Okay? And I'm going to show you why you want to have the really skinny one, because you want to be able to get back behind here with this one and then use your other 27 and tighten them down nice and snug. So I'm going to go get my other 27 and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is where the little skinny one comes into play. You put it on here, on the back one, and then you can snug up your other one. So you get it on there, and you go down and get it nice and tight. Okay? Check again, make sure you got a good rolling. And then this is that little lock washer that we put on, that little plastic one. These are you can't reuse those, so you always want to make sure that when you're doing one of these jobs that you get some fresh of those little lock washers. So I like to just bend it down first with some channel locks, and then you just tap it into place a little bit so to keep that from going. And then there's one on the bottom, and make sure you don't grab your spindle. You don't want to do anything to damage that, so you just kind of snug it up like that, and you can see that lip. So look how you can nail it around the edge on that nut, and you're good to go. So we looking pretty good here. Here's our wheel cap, bearing cap, and again, you can go into the to the theory of how much grease to put in there. I don't think it's imperative to fill the dang thing up, but I like to put enough grease in there so if it gets moisture in there, it's not going to get up against the cap. So we just put a little bit of that in there. I like to smear a good layer of grease around everything in here. The washer, the lock washer, and both spindle nuts too. And then you gotta put it on there nice and flat. Get you a little dead blow hammer, and sometimes it doesn't want to go, so I'll show you a little trick on that here in just a second.
If you've learned something or enjoying this little lesson on how to install drums, hit the like button. It helps the channel. Subscribe, hit the notification bell if you really want to see all our videos. We're always doing adventures and tech tips, and it helps the channel if you can do all that for us, so I appreciate it.
So you can see it doesn't want to, so just a little punch. So you wanted to get it to seat all the way around. So there our brakes are dragging a little bit. You see how it's kind of like got a good strong lip on there. So you just want to make sure you get it on there nice and snug, so it's all good and sealed up. Keep the moisture out. And be ready to roll down the road. We'll adjust our brake shortly, and one more thing done.
If you're doing the driver's side, at this point you would run your speedometer cable in through the little hole that's at the that's in the cap. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. We've been working on Johnson. This is just one more part to get him back on the road, and this was just a little tech tip to help you guys out there. If you liked it, leave a comment.
Yeah, thank you all very much for watching VW Life. This is what we love to do. It's a lot of fun, and we appreciate you guys watching us. Share with your friends. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification button, like button, all that kind of stuff. But we just appreciate you guys following us on VW Life.
Later.